this is the first step, frying the onions and browning the meat and making sour beef and dumplings. So there's about 6 cups of water and about 3/4 of the apple cider vinegar in here, and it's going to just cook until the beef stew is really tender. But it's also going to have some pickling spice. I don't have a tea infuser. I'm going to make my own, and this little thing with some aluminum foil. So this is going to be my homemade tea infuser, that and a piece of aluminum. So I've covered the bottom pretty nicely, and since I don't have a tea infuser, I'm adding more pickling spices just because I am. Anyway, so I'm going to fold this up, put it in the aluminum piece that I have over here, and then poke holes in it. Let's see if this works. So basically I folded the coffee liner like a burrito. The ends in and then the sides. And now I'm going to do the same with the aluminum foil. And so here it is. And now to poke some holes in it. So just a couple of holes, and now that's going to, and I will just sink this down in there. And the house will be smelling like pickling spices soon. Much to some people's dismay, but I love the smell of it. In fact, when I've done corned beef and used pickling spices, I don't even mind eating the spice. I put it over the meat and put it in the oven and broil it. And I love crunching on the pickling spices, so to each their own. So this is going to go on for a couple of hours, probably at a medium heat to be nice. So the meat is pretty tender. I've got the potatoes boiling. We'll get to how to do the dumplings later. And now I'm going to add, so I bought these ginger snaps. They're actually made in Canada. You can see that. And I can actually understand everything that's on the ingredients. That doesn't happen too much these days. So my ginger snap of choice was a product from Canada. So what I'm going to do is add all these ginger snaps to the bowl and cover it with water. So I'm going to let them sit in the water and they'll dissolve, and that'll get added to the meat mixture, and that's what makes the gravy to the sour beef and dumplings. The cookies are almost dissolved, and in this I'm also going to add just a little spot of sugar because we added apple cider vinegar to the gravy. We want to take the edge off that tartness, so it's not, it has a little bit of zing, but not so acidic that you can't eat it. So I'm going to give this another second and add this to the, so I've added the ginger snap mixture to the meat mixture, and I'm going to let that cook up for a while, and that'll turn into a nice little gravy. You don't have to add cornstarch or anything, just the cookies and the flour and the cookies themselves will thicken this up to a nice gravy that you'll put over your potato dumplings. I probably can take out my pickling spices, which I'll do that in a little bit. You can see it's already thickening up. At this point, I'll also do a little test. See, it's a nice consistency. It'll cook up a little bit more than that. And check for tartness. If it's too tart, I'll add some sugar. Nope, perfect. So I'm going to turn the heat way down to low. I'll just let that cook a little bit. What my gravy and meat looks like. What I'm going to do, is, on the next video, show you how to make a potato dumpling, and this gravy and meat would go over the potato dumpling. So this was actually a piece of chuck meat that I cut up because they had stew meat at the store that looked like it should go on a stick. So I bought a chunk of meat, I think it was chuck meat actually, and cut it up myself because I like bigger chunks, and then browned that with the flour and 2 onions, yellow onions, they have more flavor, in some sesame oil. Then I added about 6 cups of water to a 1.5 cups of vinegar, apple cider vinegar. Put my pickling spices in. I usually like to fill up a tea ball. I didn't have a tea ball here, so I used a coffee filter and aluminum foil. A little bit of sugar to take the tartness of the apple cider vinegar away. Pepper, black pepper was on the meat when I added the flour before I browned it, and voila. The ginger snaps was a whole bag of ginger snaps. It's about a pound of ginger snaps in water, and about probably a cup or 2 cups of water to cover all the ginger snaps. And the pickling spices, I like a lot of pickling spice. I'm going to say anywhere from at least 2 tablespoons to 4 tablespoons, depending on how spicy you like your sauce. I like mine sauce very saucy, pickly. Anyway, so as I was saying, and I didn't have the camera on, this is probably the best sour beef and dumplings I've ever made, at least the gravy so far. It has the chunks of chuck roast in it that I sliced up. I could have used beef stew, but I didn't because it was cut too small. I like my chunks a little bigger than what was at the store. And so what will happen next is 4 potatoes, 1 cup of flour, 1 egg. I'll mash the potatoes once they're cooked. I'll add a cup of flour, I'll add 1 egg, I'll form them into a dumpling. I'll put the dumpling in a pot of boiling water, and this gravy with the meat will go over the potato dumpling, and that's my German sour beef and dumplings. American style, I guess, because even though my grandmother was from Germany, I was told this is the American recipe. Whatever, we made it in America. I knew it from America, but my great grandmother only spoke German, and this recipe I'm sure has been passed down. My grandmother knew it, I'm sure her mother knew it, and her grandmother. Vintage recipe, it's delicious. I hope you enjoy it. I have 7 potatoes. I'm going to use the masher and mash them up. And then I leave the skins on. I'll probably pull out what I can. And to this, 4 potatoes to 1 cup of flour and 1 egg. So I'm going to use 2 eggs and almost 2 cups of flour. I'll see how the dumpling forms. If I can put it together in a ball with like a cup and 3/4 of flour, fine. If not, 2 cups of flour to form a ball, and then I'm going to drop that into a boiling water mix, and then when it floats to the top, so the dumplings. Here's the mashed up potatoes. I'm going to put about 2 cups of flour. I'm going to say 2 cups and 2 eggs. All right, so here's what the 2 cups of flour and 2 eggs make the potatoes look like. I'm going to just, once the water boils, add a dumpling into the boiling water, and again, as it floats to the top, it's done. My dumplings are made. The 7 potatoes, 2 cups of flour, 2 medium-sized egg, a little sprinkle of salt, and I left the skin on the potatoes, made about 12 dumplings, 11 actually, not surprising. Anyway, those dumplings are going to go into this boiling water, and then once they boil for a couple of minutes and they'll sink to the bottom, then they'll rise to the top, and once they've come to the top, after about 3 or 4 minutes, They'll go in a dish, and this gravy with the beef will go over it. Right, so I have 3 potatoes in there. They're sunk to the bottom. Hopefully after a few minutes of boiling in this water, they'll float to the top. At which time they will go into my dish and get covered with gravy and stew beef. Several minutes into the boiling process, and I think they're trying to float to the top. Hopefully they can. Looks like one's trying to bubble up now. Yep. And there we have it. One's made it to the surface. So another minute or two, and these will go in my bowl. This is what the dumplings look like once they've come out of the boiling water. They managed to stay together, and now I'm going to add some gravy. They are loaded with the gravy and the meat. Again, the meat's so tender, I can cut it with a spoon. It's hard to cut it looking through the lens of the camera, but you get the point. And the potato is cooked and delicious. And there you have the Rossmark Hubert sour beef and dumpling. Bon appetit.